have a question for the panel regarding the free childcare package. If the free childcare package is set to continue past June 28th this year, how are your family daycare educators, services and operators going to remain financially viable to continue to deliver a service to our Australian families if the government does not fund it 100%? We have family daycare educators continuing to deliver a service at capacity and not be paid. They are doing many hours for free. How is this okay? Thank you.
All right, I'm going to bring in Women's Advocate Georgie Dent now, who's got a big idea on childcare, but I'm going to ask you first to deal with that question. Family daycare, Georgie, typically involves accredited operators running the business from their home. In this instance, they don't qualify for JobKeeper, or at least mostly, but they're still required to offer their service free of charge. The government's saying they'd only reimburse them 50% of fees up to a capped rate. That doesn't sound like a great deal for these people.
No, and it absolutely is not an adequate situation. So more broadly, the problem is that the government introduced a rescue package for early childhood education and care because we were on the brink of the sector collapsing. So because throughout March, with the increasing health risk that COVID-19 was posing and the job losses that were being inflicted, up to 40% of children who had been enrolled in services were taken out. Now, that was either because parents were concerned about the health or because they'd lost their jobs and paying for childcare was simply no longer affordable. What the government came in and did is absolutely not a perfect model, and it has been particularly disastrous for the family daycare operators. But what it has done is allowed the majority of services at this point to stay open. Now, what we would say to the government is we do not want to extend free childcare under the current model because it's a perfect arrangement. It is absolutely not. But what would be far less perfect would be snapping back to the old model, which is absolutely no longer sustainable. We are in a completely different economy. We are in a different world. We are now facing high unemployment. And what that means for the sector is almost certain collapse, because what we have seen, we did a survey this week of 2,000 families with children enrolled in care. 44% of households had seen a reduction in their income or a job loss. In 17% of those households, both parents have lost jobs. We know that across the board in early education services at the moment, we are at about a 63% attendance rate. Now, that's an average, but that is not viable. That is well below break-even point for any service.
So then what's the big idea?
Family daycare. So the big idea is that this is tinkering with the broken old system is absolutely not the option right now. We need to radically reimagine early childhood education, and basically, fundamentally, we need to extend it into part of our education system. We know, so throughout COVID, there has been very much warranted angst and discussion and debate about how schools could continue to deliver education to kids. At one point, no one has said an adequate solution would be a school closing or a teacher losing their job. Our position is that early childhood education should have the same certainty that school funding does. Educators in early childhood are among the lowest paid workers in Australia, and yet the work they do is among the most valuable. For every dollar the government spends on early childhood education, we get $2 in return. The benefits for children socially and cognitively are experienced over the course of their lives. So we know that if we invest in early childhood education, we are investing in making Australia a far more sustainable and a brighter place. So what I would say to Katrina is I am so sorry that right now family daycare operators have been put in an untenable position, because unlike big centres who have seen a reduction in numbers, because family daycares are smaller, they haven't seen a reduction in numbers. So they are trying to do exactly the same job with half the money, if not less than half the money.
Okay.
And what we would say to government is that is an issue to be addressed, but it is not a reason to snap back to an old model that is unsustainable.